Good morning, everyone. How you doing? Saturday morning, another morning with, let me see here. Let me turn my logo on. There's my logo. Another morning. We're going to talk about Final Cut Pro, what's going on with Final Cut Pro. We're going to talk a little bit about NAB, what's going on with NAB. There's some very interesting things that are going on with NAB right now. Final Cut Pro related mostly kind of things, but there's other things that are going on that I want to talk about. And if you have questions, put them in the chat, whether on Facebook, whether on YouTube. Those seem to be the most popular, Facebook and YouTube. Let me do this. Oh, here we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So one of the things, let me see what's going on here. Let me see. One of the things, here's our friend Spot Lewis from Philadelphia. Good morning. Good coffee from Philly. Yes. Thanks for reminding me. Good coffee from the East Coast of the good old USA. I'm on, look at that. Why did it do that? Huh. Is that my camera? I guess that's my camera doing that. Automatically adjusting the exposure. Not sure why. It wasn't in front of a light. I don't know. Oh, it's probably the screen. I have a 34-inch 34-inch LG monitor, and when I put the coffee cup up, it must adjust the light to my face, and then the camera auto exposure takes over. Maybe I have to fix that. Put it on manual exposure. Anyway, we are on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. Twitter still has a live streaming service. It's unlimited. I can stream for an hour and a half, whatever I want. There's my friend Torgrim Grimstad. Good afternoon from Oslo. Hungry for Final Cut Programmer today? Yes, we all are. Torgrim. I met Torgrim at the last in-person Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, which was 2019. Not the Final Cut Pro Global Summit that they had this year when everybody was different cities. That was different. The last in person. I remember talking to you, Torgrim, before you decided to come out to that summit, and you were saying, I don't know anybody and stuff. This was 4 years ago. And I said, you can hang out with me. So that would be cool. Here, look at this. Greetings from Vietnam. Wow. Vietnam, that's amazing. I have no idea of the time frame in Vietnam. I have no idea the time difference. The worst, I can do Australia, I can do the UK, I can do Greenwich Mean Time. I can do both of those. 4 hours or 4 or 5 hours. The hard one for me is Australia, which is ridiculous because they have a bunch of different time zones, and some of them are just instead of being a whole hour different, they're a half hour different. Let me see what it says. 11 p.m. right now. Okay, thank you. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Tell us what you do there over there in Vietnam. I guess you're doing video editing? Use Final Cut Pro? That's why you're here? Probably. Most people are here because they use Final Cut Pro or they want to talk about NAB or other things related to post. We talk about mostly, Final Cut Pro, but we'll talk about Blackmagic. We'll talk about gear all the time. I have one of the things, I've been discussing this recently. I never opened this. I have this sealed editor, speed editor, Blackmagic speed editor. You can see it's sealed from the plastic on there. I've never opened this. I've had it for a year. I think I bought it last December, and I got it for sale. I put it up for sale in my local Facebook group. So pick up only. I can't be shipping and stuff because, it's really weird. eBay used to be pretty cool. You could work with it, work with people and stuff. Then they started charging 10% on every sale. Then there's always an issue of some guy trying to scam or some person trying to scam, and they'll say, I never got it. Or I got a brick instead of the thing. And I don't know how you can prove that you delivered the package that you're supposed to, So it became a big deal. I won't ship stuff like that. I mean, I might ship somebody that I know, somebody, within a certain distance or something. But I always take a video of myself packing the thing up, sealing it, and then taking it to UPS. But even then, I sell locally. Facebook Marketplace, because they don't charge anything, number one. Number two, I've reached hundreds of thousands of people because I'm in an area that's like 5 different states. I live in Maryland, north of Washington, northwest of Baltimore. So I have Washington, D.C., I have Virginia, I have Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. All those different states, 5 different states, are within an hour's driving distance of where I live. So if something like the speed editor, they want to come pick it up, it's not a problem. And I have my Mac Pro, my 2019 Mac Pro up for sale too on Facebook. I've 500 and some views. People have looked at that so far, at that particular listing. It was fantastic, and everybody was so welcoming to Wide-Eyed Norwegian Summit. Well, we had a great time having you, Torgrim. I remember we had a lot of time together, and I put you in the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit documentary a couple times. I think twice, at least 3 times. 3 times. 3 different times. We had a good time. I hope you can make it for the 2023 Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. No, that hasn't been announced yet, so that's just me speculating. I speculate a lot. I get a kick out of people, and they say, "Oh, that's just speculation." Yeah. So what? What other news is there about Final Cut Pro? What news about Final Cut Pro in the last couple of months? Zero. Dead silence. Radio silence. There's been nothing going on. So, speculation, sure, not a big deal. But there's some things that I do know that I can't talk about. So, what I don't know, I'll tell you right now, what I do not know is what's going on for Final Cut Pro around NAB. Not sure if you take questions, but is there equivalent to Avid Phrase Finder in Final Cut Pro? Smash Cut. Yeah, we do take questions, absolutely. I'm not that familiar with Avid's Phrase Finder, but I've heard a lot of people talk about that. I would say the closest thing to that for Final Cut, yes, Lumberjack Systems has a system. I think their system will let you find phrases and go to video inside of Final Cut, or inside of Final Cut, or external. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it's an external app, and then you take your video into it, and then you find your phrases, and then you can export back to Final Cut with an XML or something. Torgrim says, and I won a Final Cut FCP documentary t-shirt. Yes, you did. I had that on film, I think. So if anybody knows the answers to that, is there equivalent to Avid Phrase Finder in Final Cut Pro? I think Lumberjack Systems is the closest thing to Phrase Find at this point. At this point. Now listen, one of the updates to Final Cut Pro has got to be integration with text-to-speech. A new version of Final Cut, excuse me. So Final Cut, there's got to be, look, they gave us 2 features for the entire last year. 2 features. That's all. That's the only features we got the entire year for Final Cut Pro. That was in March, 1 year, it came out in April. It was previewed last year in March. Apple allowed a beta version of Final Cut Pro to be previewed on YouTube. Now, when was the last time you saw that happen? That was last March. They allowed it. So we saw a preview of 10.6.2 with dupe detection and voice isolation. You know, patterns, if the pattern repeats, they'll do the same this year. They'll do a beta preview in March. Some YouTubers will leak it or show it in March, right now, anytime now, and then they'll release it in time right before NAB. That's what they did last year. And I'm thinking that that could happen again, right? There's no reason why it couldn't. They did it once, they could do it again. But NAB is 1 month away. Let me see, what's today's date? Today's the 11th, so NAB is April the 16th. I think it starts on the 15th, Saturday, but most people, the show floor opens up at 10 o'clock on Sunday, April the 16th. So I'll be flying in early Sunday morning, dropping my bags off at the hotel, and then assembling a very light, extremely light backpack with a few things in it, a couple bottles of water, very few things. Because last year I had my backpack that I took after I dropped my stuff off at the hotel was way too heavy. It was way too heavy. So this year, no, just the opposite. Bare minimum, high quality, like my microphones, for example. I've been testing microphones for interviewing stuff, NAB, and I'll continue to do that leading up to NAB. I will actually do some live streams with the tests to see how they go. But I think I've made up my mind. I think I'm going to stick with the Sennheiser MKE 600 for a shotgun for an interview mic. I'm not worried about me because I have the trusty old, where are they? They're not here. The trusty old, very, very good and efficient DJI mics. That'll be under my shirt at all times, recording me and broadcasting to the iPhone that I'll be using. Jacobs says, Simon Says can do something similar to Phrase Finder with ranges. There you go. So there's another one. That's two. Simon Says, I think Lumberjack's system is probably the most sophisticated integration with Final Cut. Philip and Greg. I think that's the most sophisticated, and that's an actual video editor that they use. I use it for documentary. Okay, there you go. He uses Simon Says. Simon Says. I remember Simon Says a long time ago. They were one of the first. Now, I've also used Descript, which is a third-party app, and I export from there XML files. I like Descript because it has, you can make audiograms with it, and I like that for short little social media posts. So here we are again on another Saturday morning. This 11 o'clock seems to be a popular time. Maybe I'll switch to 11 from 10. Tell me if you have a preference, 10 a.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. It seems like 11 a.m. is probably a little bit more popular. I figured to get those lazy West Coast people an extra hour to get up. Instead of 7 a.m., they're getting their coffee. It's now 8 a.m. on the West Coast. So, but nobody, I don't know anybody from West Coast even signed on here. Everybody's from out of the country. Everybody's from overseas. All right, here's a good idea. Poll suggestion. What is harder? Editing videos, assemble flat-packed IKEA nightstands. Well, Torgrim, it depends. It depends on how good you are with tools and following obscure directions. Because I've put together some IKEA packages, but I have a background in doing what they call millwork, which is putting together, office furniture and paneling and woodwork and custom millwork. So I have years and years of experience doing that, and I have the tools. But sometimes it's still difficult because the instructions are obtuse. The instructions just don't even make any sense. So that could always be the case. So I would say it depends. I understand your poll question. Are you doing one right now? Are you putting together an IKEA nightstand? Yeah, you probably are. Editing videos can be fun or it can be challenging itself. I'm doing a very big documentary, years worth of work. I forget how many terabytes of footage that I'm dealing with, and I'm showing the debut at the AFI, the American Film Institute, Silver Theater in Silver Spring on April the 29th, Saturday, April the 29th at 5:30, I think it is. It starts. So we're starting with the director's cut. It's all edited on a Final Cut, of course. We're in iMovie. The producer that I'm working with doesn't edit that much, so he uses iMovie and does shortcuts, sends them to me, and then I reassemble them in Final Cut. The footage that I send him always has a burned-in time code, and the name of the clip and burned-in time code, so it's easy to go back to the source footage. But we've been working on this for years. The pandemic really hit everybody hard, so we kind of lost traction there, but we're back on. He's coming back up Monday. Jeff Krulik if you know him. Heavy Metal Parking Lot. He's my co-producer on that project. That's coming up end of April. After NAB, I'll come back and finish up whatever I have to do to get that ready. We're going to make one of those, whatever, special DVDs for the theater. He says they take care of that. We just give them a master, a ProRes master, and then they take care of it. So that'll be fun. That'll be my first big release, my first release in a big theater. Torgrim says, I do both. My late father built big church organs, so he trained me well, but even he had troubles with the flat packs from time to time. I know what you mean. Let me just see if I can adjust that. So I'm going to put that back on and adjust that so it's not, there we go. It's not spread across. There we go. So there's a couple of things going on. Well, I don't know what's going on with Final Cut Pro in relation to NAB. I don't know. I don't know if anything's going to happen like last year. I just don't know. But could it? Yes, it could. I'm always the optimist about stuff like that, so I always talk about it. But it's how long has it been radio silence on any Final Cut Pro news? That's usually a warning something's happening. Now, I was thinking originally 10.7 in time for NAB because it's 10.6.5. It's ready for a new version. It's been 2 features in 1 year. Let's do another poll. Who out there in the audience is satisfied with 2 features for Final Cut Pro every year? I'm not. That's not nearly enough work on Final Cut Pro. That's not nearly enough work. I'm sorry. And, every time when this comes up, people say, oh, they're working on silicon, Apple Silicon. Working on Metal 2. I don't care about all that stuff. Everybody has to do that. Blackmagic had to do that. Look what they do. They put out updates and bug fixes and updates and bug fixes and go from 17 to 18 during the same time period with the same criteria. They still have to work. They have to work with Apple Silicon. They had to work with Metal 2. That's not an excuse. Everybody has to do that. Everybody that develops for video editing has to do those 2 things. That's nothing specific to Final Cut. Does it work? Sure. But Apple's got so much money that they're not dedicating to Final Cut that, go knock on Tim Cook's door and say, Tim, come out here a second. I got something to show you outside. And when you do that, have somebody else run in his house, go in his couch, get all the change on his couch, put it in a bucket, and get it out and before he comes back in. That'll be enough to take care of the Final Cut Pro team for a couple years. Torgrim says, no, I've been waiting for big updates since the summit. Do you know anything about the rumors about key people leaving Final Cut Pro team? So what I know about that is, well, let's look that up a second. Okay, let's look that up. Hold on. Let's go here. Here, look at this. Look at this. Pro Apps Team Exodus. This is what Torgrim's talking about. So there has been an exodus of people leaving the Final Cut Pro teams over a period of 4 years, something like that. 4 years. So here's been an exodus of people. Steve Bays, Estelle McGetchie, Wes Plate, Colleen Pendergast, Judson Copland, Xander Soren, Dan Svoboda, and Luke Tristram. They have all left the Final Cut Pro team. Now these 3, the bottom 3, Luke, Tristram, Dan, and Xander, have left. 3 have left within the last 4 months. Final Cut Pro Apps team. There's also some other people. Of course, Johnny Ives left. His successor left. A bunch of other things. People have left. So I did the article about that. It's gotten a lot of attention, but I'm not... Look, Apple's a big company. It's complex. This is not necessarily the Final Cut Pro team. This is probably the umbrella Apple corporate has something to do with people leaving as well. And the other thing is people just could be leaving because they got tired, and they wanted to retire with all their Apple millions of dollars that they've accumulated in some cases, not every case, but some cases. So they had enough money and they left. I don't think there's vacancies. I think they probably fill those vacancies up pretty quick, but we don't know anything about that. We don't know the level of talent, where we did know the level of talent of some of these other people. I met Steve Bays multiple times, and he's in the documentary. I think the first year in 2019 was the first year he left. I guess he left in 2018 or 2019. And he left Apple, and I talked with him at the Creative Summit. He's in the documentary, the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit documentary. That's like 47 minutes if you want to watch that over my YouTube channel. And you know where my YouTube channel is, right? Richard Taylor TV. There you go. Richard Taylor TV, right over there. Right there. There we go, Final Cut Pro. And that's where I'll be broadcasting. Go over there. I'm going to be broadcasting at NAB, starting when I'm at the airport, and continuing till I go back to the airport. I'll be there for 4 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I'll coming back Wednesday afternoon. So I'll be there for 4 days. I'll be interviewing I'll be stopping and interviewing mostly Final Cut Pro related third-party people that are related somehow to Final Cut Pro. But there's some other people that might not be directly related, but I think everybody makes plugins or hardware that Final Cut Pro can use. And that's the people I'll be stopping to see. As well as Blackmagic. Come on, Blackmagic's booth is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Let's pull these up. Let's check on the cat room first. There's the cat room. I only see Tuffy. Tuffy is the orange and white cat at the bottom of the cat tree. Bottom of the cat tree. Yeah, orange and white. He's pretty, he's relaxing, it looks like. It certainly does. Let's look at some videos here. I always found this peculiar when I was at NAB. This is 2019. This is 2019, then I went in 2022 last year. This is 2019. I always found this little bit peculiar. So what's peculiar about that is Blackmagic's on one side and Adobe's on the other side. Blackmagic, Adobe, right across from each other, and they're both doing lessons with PA speakers. They weren't blasting each other, but you sort of can hear one on the other side, but right across from each other is Blackmagic and Adobe. I always found that humorous. That was at NAB 2019. Okay, NAB 2019. Now that's not the big Blackmagic. That's not the big Blackmagic booth. That is just a demonstration booth or a tutorial booth of both. And it's just, how does that happen? Maybe those are the optimal spaces for tutorials. And maybe that's what it was. It very well could have been. That could have been the optimal place. And they both wanted the best places. They're both big companies. But I thought I always got a kick out of that. They're right across from each other. So let's see what else we have there in the videos. So Future Media Concepts has a party on Sunday night. It's called the Content Creators Party. There's food there. There's dozens, or there's more than dozens. There's hundreds of people there. And this is the one from 2022, last year when I was there. Future Media Concepts Content Creators Party. Now, it's free if you take some of their sessions. If you don't take any of their sessions, it's a ticket price, and it's like $70 or something. But there's food there and stuff and drink. This is what it looks like. Steve Martin was there last year. Photo Joseph was there. Of course, Jeff Greenberg was there. Here's Jeff there. So they have drawings there for prizes. It's a meet and greet. There's food, there's drinks and stuff. It's a social gathering. It's Sunday night. I'll be going to that this year, courtesy of Future Media Concepts. I'm a media partner with them. I always support their events. I always broadcast, interview the people there, bring up the news and everything. And maybe I'll get a hint from somebody that there's going to be a Final Cut Pro Creative Summit this year. I'll ask them. It's probably too early because I think they really don't start planning that till May, June, July, sometime in that time frame, if there is going to be one, because they have to work with Apple. They have to coordinate with Apple. Cupertino is the place to be because that's Apple campus, Spaceship campus. One Infinite Loop is right there, so we can go to those places and actually see, like the Final Cut Pro team, do a presentation in Apple instead of a one-off and on a panel or something somewhere. Now, we see the whole team and get to meet them and get to talk with them. We have separate meetings with them, so it's very cool. So I certainly do hope that move ring closed. Oh, Siri, be quiet. It's move ring closed. How can the move ring be closed? I've been sitting here for the last 20 minutes. What move ring's been closed? Maybe it's the mood ring. Maybe it's the mood ring's been closed. Maybe they say, well, you have a happy mood. That's why. So if you have any Final Cut Pro questions, shout them out. If I don't know the answer or can't refer you, maybe the audience will know. We got a lot of people watching right now. So 11 o'clock seems to be a good time. It seems to be a better time. So I think we're going to switch to 11 o'clock. It seems to have more people watching. So one of the things that I did last year, and I'm doing it again this year, number one is I have some sponsors for sponsoring my trip to NAB, which is expensive. It's a couple $1,000 typically. Airfare and hotel and food and parking at the airport and all that kind of stuff. So I have some sponsors. I'm not going to announce them yet. I'm going to just wait a little bit. I could use one more sponsor or two more sponsors. If you want to sponsor my trip, just contact me through social media, whatever. But another way that the listeners can help, and they did last year, they did a fantastic job, is this. Buy me a coffee. Over there at buymeacoffee.com/Richard Taylor. You can buy a coffee for $5, okay? It's whether it goes to coffee or not is not important, but it's easy to do. It's easy to get money in and out of there for me. It's no big deal. So buymeacoffee.com is where you can go. Last year, for NAB, listeners like you, not like you, listeners, all you listeners, you bought over $200 worth of Buy Me a Coffees there. And you know what? I really, really, really appreciate that. It's not even the money. It's the idea that you would take time to send $5, $10. Some people send $25. That's fantastic. It's fantastic. So I usually don't do this year round. I'm just doing it for NAB because that's the most expensive event I have right now. If there is a Creative Summit, I'll bring it back up again next fall. But it's not even the money. The money is really, really good. Of course, I do buy things. I buy breakfast and lunches and dinners and stuff. It's the fact that you do it. I appreciate it. So no big drama in people leaving Final Cut Pro. Well, we don't know for a fact. Here's why I posted that article. I knew about the 3 or the 4 that left, or the 5 that left over the last few years. I know about them. But when Luke left, okay, Luke Tristram is a very, very big, high personality person that did Final Cut Pro demonstrations. And he was always there doing demonstrations when there was an Apple event. When he left, I was like, what is going on? Then I started looking into it, went on all their LinkedIn profiles, and I could see the different dates that people left. And then I found out Luke left, and 2 people left right before him on the team, on the Pro Apps compressor team, Apple team. 3 within 4 months. That to me is a warning sign. Now, that, like I said, that could be Apple related, not Final Cut related. Don't know, but I still wanted to report on it, let people know that was going on. It's all public. All their profiles are public on LinkedIn. My friend Wes Plate, he left after being there for a few years. It's Apple corporate. Apple has a big, giant corporation. Okay? Things go on. I've seen stuff at different Apple Final Cut Pro events where somebody not in the Final Cut Pro team was, let's say, being a little harsh about some things. I've seen it myself. I've heard it myself. So sometimes, it's not the Final Cut Pro team. It's just Apple, the corporate. It's a corporation. Everything is not smooth sailing there 100% of the time. It's a big corporation. They've had problems. Their stores have been trying to be unionized, for example. I don't really have an opinion on that. I don't work at the store, so I don't really have an opinion on that. But anyway, we don't know, Torgrim. No big drama, we don't know. The reason I brought it up was because when Steve Bays left, that's when the development for Final Cut Pro stalled. Okay, once he left, 10.5, 10.6, both of them are very small. There was no big feature updates. I mean, just a little bit. Nothing like 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4 when he was there. I don't know if it's related, but it's the same time period, so it could be related. We have to see what they do. If they give us 2 features a year, there's going to be problems. It's ridiculous that they only gave us 2 features in an entire year. That's just ridiculous. Do they think that's okay? No, it's not. It's not okay. Blackmagic is smoking the development pace of Final Cut Pro. Now let's see what, this is what I always do. Let's see what the next one is. Let's see what this one is. I waited so long for 10.5 and it wasn't coming. When it came out, I'm going, is that it? For like the last couple years, this is all you've been doing? Don't tell me about Apple Silicon, metal and stuff. I don't care about that. I mean, I care about it, of course, but what I mean is everybody has to do that. Okay, every developer has to do those same things. That's not Final Cut Pro specific. Does it work? Sure. Does it add features to Final Cut? No, it does not. Features add features. Is it necessary? Of course it's necessary. Is it important? Yes, it's important. But don't take away from adding features. You can do both at the same time. You got plenty of money. Apple's got the richest company in the world. Final Cut Pro has generated $1.5 billion is the best we can figure from the outside. So give us some features. I'm always saying, let's wait for the next one. Let's wait for the next one. Well, I'm waiting for 10.7. Or if it's 10.6.6, doesn't make any difference. Just give us some features. There's a whole list of features that we need. Whole list of features. I have a list of 101 features. That's actually 87, I think. But anyway, did you watch last Matthew O'Brien about his thoughts about the future? I have not watched that. I heard it's a good video. The future would be, to me, would be Final Cut Pro 11. That would be the future. What's going to happen with that? AI will probably be a big thing. But listen, in the next version, let me go back to this. So one of the things that I have here is I have top requests for Final Cut Pro, the list. This is the list. This is the official list. The Final Cut Pro team knows about this list. Chris Fenwick told me one point people had printed this out and put it in their back pocket when they came to meet the Final Cut Pro team. But look at all the things that Final Cut Pro needs. Pro audio features, project improvements. Wouldn't you like to add one project into another project? Wouldn't you like the project to be scrubbable in the browser? Because right now it's the only thing that's not scrubbable in the browser. Clip logger, that's one of my ideas. Better keyframing, a clipboard manager with a history to remember copied and pasted items for reuse. BRAW support with ProRes. Now, Chris Hawking has got BRAW Toolbox, which has kind of alleviated that, but browser improvements. 5 clicks to make a default. It takes 5 clicks presently to make a default in the shared destination. It should be 1 click right there. Adjustable secondary, primary storylines, parameters, and the inspector right now, when you choose a storyline, it has no parameters. Access to match color, all kinds of things. Batch sync audio and video clips, keyframeable opacity bar with fade handles on the clip the same way you have audio. Why not have it just right there so you don't have to go in and open up the video lane and all that? I mean, there's tons of stuff, okay, that Final Cut could use. The professionals wanted dupe detection. They complained about it for years and years and years. 11 years later, we got dupe detection. Took 11 years of complaining to get dupe detection. That's too slow. That's too slow a pace. We should have had dupe detection 5 years ago or whatever. So we need to keep the pressure on the Final Cut Pro team and Apple to give us these features that we want. You have to keep the pressure on, professionally. Don't go and call them names and stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. The industry likes subscription for apps and series. Do you think Final Cut Pro will follow? If Final Cut Pro has a subscription, it'll be an option to buying it outright. They won't drop the outright and say subscription only. I don't see that. That would make a lot of us very angry. But here's the thing. Does that mean we never pay for Final Cut Pro again? No, I don't think that's... I think at some point, like maybe Final Cut Pro 11, they'll say $100 for an upgrade from Final Cut Pro 10 or whatever. That's fine. I like to keep on supporting the team that way. I think there could be an option at some point for a subscription, and I'll tell you where it would come in, that I think it would come in. If and when they port Final Cut Pro to the iPad, number one, it won't be the full version of Final Cut Pro. It'll be either Final Cut Pro for the iPad, or it'll be Final Cut Pro Lite or something. Or they'll make it iMovie Pro instead of just iMovie. Whatever they want to call it doesn't make any difference to me. Maybe that'll be a subscription, but does Apple have apps that are subscriptions? Does Apple have any apps that are subscriptions? They have subscription services, music, Apple TV, News Plus, music. Those are subscriptions, but do they have any apps? I can't think of one offhand that's a subscription. No, I like paying for my apps. Series equals services, yes. How about a Randy Ubelos Second Coming? You mean somebody like Randy Ubelos, because Randy's retired, right? That's that what you mean? Somebody like Randy Ubelos? Well, it depends on who you ask, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because some people did not like Final Cut Pro 10. Some people wanted Final Cut Pro 8. which Premiere kind of did at the time. I don't know. Good morning, Richard. How you doing? Glad you could make it over. Agree, keeping the pressure is best strategy. Yes, professionally. Professional. You know, as a matter of fact, let's go over here. Let's go back to my website. So this is fcpx.tv. If you go right here, well, you can't see it, but if you go, send your requests, bug reports, feedback to the Final Cut Pro team. There's a link right on the page there. If you click that, it goes right to the Final Cut Pro page. It's easy. It's always available. Type in your name, email address, subject. In the comments field, okay? Features, we need, misspelled features, here we go. Features, we need more than 2 features a year. You can send in request here too, because it says select feedback type. And you can do, what the heck's going on there? Why did that get so big? I have no idea. No idea why that got so big. Oh, there we go. So you can select feedback type. And you can type in, we need more than 2 features a year, or suggest your features, whatever you want to do. Doesn't make any difference. Do I have to go? Can I go back? Yeah, there we go. So that's on fcpx.tv. It's right at the top. You can send your feedback to the Final Cut Pro team there. Now, once again, professional, polite, don't bug them. Send feature requests. If you want to see more than 2 features a year, let them know. Let the Final Cut Pro team know. This is my microphone. Let me see if I can pull that up a little bit closer. There, I can. Let them know what's going on. Let them know that 2 features a year is not enough, because it's really absolutely not. Maybe a heavy, updated, free iMovie Pro. Something, yes, absolutely. And then it's subscribe Final Cut Pro. I don't see a subscription to Final Cut Pro only. I think, you know, some people say $2.99 is too much. Not if you're a professional. I'm sorry, $2.99 is nothing. I spend that much on one plugin sometimes. Student, I understand. Student, I understand. But they have a 90-day free trial, don't they? Still have a 90-day free trial? So if you're not sure, try it for 90 days before you do anything, before you buy. And there's also a student discount. It's only $1.99 if you're a student, and you get Final Cut Pro, Logic, Motion, Compressor, and Main Stage. You get 5 pro apps for $1.99, one-time price, if you're a student. Maybe if you're a teacher, too. It might be if you're a teacher as well. So, possibly, subscription might be there at some point. I'm not really worried about it. Time to spin off pro apps like they did with FilmMaker years ago. I wouldn't. It depends, but I mean, I like the Final Cut Pro team more than I like Apple. Let's say that. I like the Final Cut Pro team more than I like Apple. I'm more pro Final Cut Pro team, not so much pro Apple. Although, obviously, I use all their equipment and I buy their hardware and software and phones and everything because I like it. I like the hardware and the software for the most part. But Final Cut Pro really needs to hit a home run with a good, solid feature update. If 10.7 came out, let's just say 10.7 comes out before NAB, or it comes out in 2023. Like to see it before NAB. That would create a lot of buzz around NAB for me to cover. But if it doesn't come out before NAB, it'll likely come out in 2023. If that's a big hit with lots of features people have been requesting, things like, listen, speech to text. Take a video, put it in Final Cut. It transcribes all the audio. You can click on a word and it takes you to that point in the video. Maybe you can edit with the text inside of Final Cut. Gigantic feature. They have to be working on that. Same thing, speech to text. You can make subtitles. You can transcribe your video in the timeline. They have to be working on that. They absolutely have to be. That would be a giant, giant feature. I mean, that's a giant feature. I hope it's got to be in 10.7. People want collaboration in 10.7. I don't have the need for collaboration that much right now. When Brad Olson and I did the Final Cut Pro documentary, we used Frame.io, but way back years ago. I had a hard drive with all the footage on it. He sent it to me, and then we just share project files back and forth. Made comments in Frame.io, did things there. So we worked on that years ago, but I haven't worked with anybody that far of a distance that I needed that. Right now I'm working with my co-editor, co-producer down in Washington. He's in Silver Spring. But we use, well, he's here 2 or 3 times a week, so we'll upload clips back and forth, but he'll bring them on a hard drive and we'll just transfer them here in person. I'll put them in the master folder and keep organized. There you go, Coco. Good morning from Los Angeles. I'll see you at NAB. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, Coco. One of the things that, look, there used to be Final Cut Pro specific events at NAB. There used to be booths that had Final Cut Pro people around them at NAB. Even the Super Meet last year, it had a lot of Final Cut Pro people there, even though it's not Final Cut Pro specific. This NAB, I know of nothing that's Final Cut Pro specific. I don't know of no gatherings. I don't know of no booths that are Final Cut Pro, have a lot of Final Cut Pro activity. Like, for example, in the past, in 2019, Frame.io was a place you could go and see a lot of Final Cut Pro people. Well, Adobe bought Frame.io, so that's not going to happen. They're not going to have any Final Cut Pro space anymore, so that's gone. OWC bought LumaForge. LumaForge has been doing the Faster Together stages at NAB for years. 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, they had the Faster Together stages. In 2019, it was actually took over the Super Meet time slot with a big stage, and that had a lot of Final Cut Pro stuff. A lot of Final Cut Pro stuff. That ain't happening. OWC bought LumaForge. OWC's, I don't see OWC doing a Final Cut Pro event. They're about hardware. They're about selling their hardware, not about Final Cut Pro specific. So that's another one that's not happening at NAB this year. The FCPX Guru Gathering, Steve Martin was in charge of that for years. He had one at the Hard Rock Cafe, which I really, really liked. And he had another one outside of the convention center. We could walk from the convention center to the one. There was a Final Cut Pro Guru Gathering specifically for Final Cut Pro gurus, okay? That's not happening at NAB. But let me just bring this up. Greetings from Romania. Absolutely. What's up, Richard? Matthew Pate. And now, let's go back to this one. Good morning, Richard from Los Angeles. I'll see you at NAB. So one of the things, there's a couple of things I want to do. With my platform, this broadcast, and with Final Cut Pro Radio, which was my podcast that I've been doing for 8 years. I think I started my 8th year in January. It's Final Cut Pro specific podcasts. Okay? Been doing it for 8 years. I have millions of podcast downloads. I have 2 podcasts. That's one of them. Millions of podcast audio downloads. Between the two, I'm going to try to organize 1 or 2 Final Cut Pro get-together luncheons or dinners. Now, It's going to be informal. It's not going to be something I'm putting up money and running a restaurant like the other people do or renting a room. All I'm going to do is say, let's get together at this time at this restaurant, Final Cut Pro people. And I'll take specifically, I'll get people to send me their information if they're going to show up, if they, who many's in their party, and I'll make the reservation at the whatever we choose. But and I'm not going to shell out hundreds of dollars for a reservation. It has to be it'll be a loose kind of thing. If you don't show up or whatever. But if the people want to do that, you let me know and I will organize. I'm thinking 2, okay? Not going to be Sunday night because the Future Media Concepts. It's not going to be Monday night because the Media Motion Ball is the big event on Monday night. And I'm going to both of those. I bought tickets for the Media Motion Ball. I'll be there. And I bought tickets for Future Media Concepts. Future Media Concepts has given me tickets for that. That's on Sunday night. But here's one of the things I'm thinking. If Final Cut Pro people are going to the Motion Media Ball, Media Motion, whatever that thing is on Monday night, if they're coming already, let's get a bunch of people together for that. Some Final Cut Pro people, couple of tables, whatever. Let's meet up there, and we can meet there. That'll be one of the places. One of the other places is maybe for breakfast before NAB. I get up early, so I'll tell people where I'm going to be eating and give them directions. No, I'm not going to just do it out in the wild, the general public, because I don't want, that's uncontrollable. You have no idea what's going on. But people that contact me, I'll say, hey, I'm going to have an open breakfast, Final Cut Pro breakfast, this time in this, about this time frame. If you want to make it, send me your information and I'll send you where it's going to be. And we can meet up for breakfast or we can meet up for lunch. And that's another opportunity, lunch. I don't typically do lunch. I'm running around NAB too much. I don't stop and do lunch because if it is, it's something light. But anyway, if you're interested in that, contact me via social media, and we'll see if we can organize a couple common times where we get together for different events. One of them would be the Media Motion Ball, because I'm already going to that. FMC, if you're going to be that, but that's more generic. Surely we are getting a big Final Cut Pro update soon. It's been too long. It absolutely has been too long, Matthew. Absolutely. It's been incredibly long. I was hoping 10.7 in time for NAB. I'm not sure about that now. I'm not sure. It could be 10.6.6 for NAB with some more features. And then 10.7 will come out later in the year, maybe when the Mac Pro comes out. But the Mac Pro could be out in the spring event. It's March. It was last year in March, Apple announced the spring event, and they introduced the Mac Studio. So can another spring event happen? Absolutely. Could they introduce the Mac Pro? Absolutely. If they do a spring event, and if they introduce the Mac Pro, come on. That's when you introduce a big version of Final Cut Pro, right? With the Mac Pro, it's perfect timing. And it's also before NAB, so the new Mac Pro would be at NAB, not with Apple, but with other vendors. And the new version of Final Cut will be at NAB, and it'll create a lot of buzz. NAB is much more important to video editing than WWDC. WWDC is a very wide swath of developers for all kinds of apps and all kinds of programming languages. It's not Final Cut Pro. Okay? It's not. NAB is much more important to Final Cut Pro than WWDC. It's much more important. It has the attention of the audience that use Final Cut Pro. Professional video editors, broadcast, television. That's what NAB is, National Association of Broadcasters. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, let me bring this up. Let me see, is that a graphic? I'm not sure if it's a graphic or, oh, here we go. this is my graphic that I'll be using. Final Cut TV reporting live from NAB, Final Cut Pro at NAB, Final Cut Pro, NAB, follow on YouTube, etc., etc. Now, let me just do this. Pull myself up above. There we go. Now, let me see. Here, Edit Suite, Final Cut Pro at NAB, Camlink, Coffee Beans. All right, where is my... Let's check on the cat room real quick. There's Luther in the top of the cat tree. You can barely see him. He's at the top of the cat tree. He's gray, so it's hard to see him in the gray cat tree. And then Tuffy is our orange and white guy. He's down at the bottom of the cat tree. And over there in the orange, the brown basket, wicker basket, I think is Lucinda. Those are other ones. They like to sit in the front window when the sun comes in the morning. Let me see something here. Let me go back to the graphics. Now, what do I have here? Oh, that's interesting. Where did I put that? Let me see where I put the graphic that I wanted to show you. Oh, here it is. I didn't put it up. That's why. So this is the NAB graphic from 2019. Okay, in 2019, NAB had 900 exhibitors. They were very proud they surpassed 900 exhibitors. I'm sorry, not 2019, 2022. Last year, 900 exhibitors. Last year, 900 exhibitors. Okay, now, so how's this year doing? This year, over 1,150 exhibitors. So they've gone up 250 exhibitors in 1 year. NAB 2022, 900. NAB 2023, they're already at 1,150. They're already at 250 more exhibitors in 1 year than they were last year. So this NAB is going to be much bigger than last year's NAB. Much, much bigger. Final Cut Pro team, get an update to Final Cut Pro out in March or April and make it a big one. Give us some features everybody's excited about. Here's what I was thinking. If they put out 10.7 and it's a big feature update, has some great features, text transcriptions, makes captions and other things, maybe some collaboration. If they big ticket items, people will forget 10.5 and 10.6 and how small they were as far as new features. They'll forget. They'll say, okay, this is what we've been waiting for, and you delivered. That's what you have to do. Even if it doesn't come out in time for NAB, even if doesn't come out in time for NAB in 2023, but give us something for NAB. Forgive me, it's going to be a big event. It's geared toward broadcast, so let's give us something. If I'm not mistaken, when the FCP users signed the letter, Apple promised a close relationship with us. What's going on with that? Have they follow up in any ways? So, yeah, Michael Yanovich was on the show. He's meeting with the Final Cut Pro people with the Hollywood bunch. He's allowed to say he's in the meetings. He can't say what's going on in the meetings. But I would say, my opinion, this is not what he said, my opinion is he is optimistic about the future of Final Cut Pro based on those meetings with the folks from Apple, the Final Cut Pro team, I guess is who it is. So based on that, he is very happy. But the public doesn't know about that. That letter, the public doesn't know anything about that letter. I happen to know because I'm friends with Michael and I've had him on the show. So why not tell people about it? Hey, we're progressing as we said we were going to do. I agree with you, Torgrim. That's an interesting point. We got to keep pressure on them. I think Final Cut Pro will get a lot of updates, but Apple doesn't care about DaVinci or Premiere. Final Cut Pro continues to be a first-class app with tremendous accessibility to amateur and pro users. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. But it could be better. I guess that's my point. It's good. It's what I use, but it could be better. Okay? 11 years for dupe detection is not good. We should have had dupe detection 5 years ago. People have been asking for it, asking for it, asking for it, asking for it. Is it good? Yes, of course. That's what I use. I did my documentary is coming out in Final Cut Pro. I do 90% of my stuff in Final Cut Pro. But I don't want to just rest on your laurels. Oh, it's great. Let's stop here. We don't need anything else. We need lots of stuff. I have a list of 70, 80, 90 different things we could use. Text to speech transcriptions, text to make captions, collaboration. Wouldn't you like to be able to drag one project into another project? I do that. I try to do it all the time. I try to grab it and I can't. I just make compound clips and I can drag them. Try to scrub a project in the browser. Can't do it. After all these years, 11 years, going to be 12 years old in June, you still can't scrub a project in the browser. So there's lots of things Final Cut Pro needs. Lots of things. As good as it is. I heard State introduced new Mac Pro with M3 chip. I'm not sure what you're talking about. There's no M3 chip been announced yet. Matthew says, give a shout out to the Final Cut Pro. He released an updated picture-in-picture tool that is excellent, especially for those who do tutorials. Absolutely, absolutely. I met Dylan at the NAB last year. I met two Final Cut Pro Dylans, Dylan John and Dylan Bates. Is that his last name? I think it is. Both of them at Final Cut Pro, and I ran into him, at NAB, and I ran into him multiple times. I ran into him in the lobby. I was leaving for something, going out of the lobby. They were coming in. They stopped me and said, hey, Richard Taylor, we watch on internet or whatever, and we do tutorials too. I said, oh, of course. I know both of you guys. I see your tutorials. Both of them are very, very good Final Cut Pro tutorial guys, both of them. Absolutely. Matthew says, glad to see the world getting back to normal. Yeah, let's hope that it stays that way. That's my hope. When I was, I always joke about UFOs landing and how that would change the entire world. How that would change the entire world. If UFOs landed, the entire world would come together because we'd have to, because now we don't know what's happening. Same thing happened with COVID. I mean, the entire world had to come together to try to work solutions out for that, whatever. But I miss being out live at these events. Absolutely. Michael says, DaVinci Resolve will be the new king of video editing for content creation in Hollywood. I think DaVinci Resolve was already a king. I mean, I like DaVinci Resolve a lot. I have the studio license, and I like it. I like it a lot, and I certainly could edit with it. But I've been doing Final Cut for like 20-some years, from the original version to through 10. It's all those years of learning. It's, of course, some of that goes over with a different NLE. It goes over with DaVinci Resolve. It goes over with LumaFusion. Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. So DaVinci Resolve, I mean, I don't think any of the NLEs are the king. I don't think any of them are the king. Certainly not Final Cut Pro, because it's never made inroads into Hollywood, or very small inroads into Hollywood. And people think of that as probably the king spot. So obviously Avid is the king of Hollywood. Well, let's say it's the darling of Hollywood. I would say it's the king. And there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with the infrastructure, all the servers, all the connectivity, all the way unions don't want a simple NLE in Hollywood. They want complex. They want complex. They want it to be hard to get there. They don't want it to be simple. So you have to fight the unions. You have to fight legacy. You have to fight all the infrastructure. If you took away all the infrastructure that Avid has and just did NLE to NLE, Final Cut Pro to Avid, just the NLEs, not the infrastructure, not the legacy stuff. I mean, I think Final Cut Pro is a pretty darn good NLE in that regards. But it doesn't have collaboration, the kind that Hollywood needs. Avid does. Avid has it built in. They've developed it over the years, so they win there. I'm a big fan of DaVinci Resolve, Michael. I'm a big fan of it. I saw a video recently about the multicam coming at some point to LumaFusion. It would be fun to test. Any ideas when that might happen? I'll have to interview. I'll have to interview the LumaFusion folks. They've been on my show, live interviews, 6 times over the last 3-4 years. I interview them all the time, and I plan, if I think they're going to NAB, I certainly will interview them there, and we'll ask them that question. When's that multicam coming out? I know there's a beta video that's out now that has demonstration of the multicam, and that's on an iPad. Now, here's the thing. The iPad version of LumaFusion runs on M2 Max. They've allowed LumaFusion in the App Store on a regular Mac. Now, it's not as sophisticated as the iPad because LumaFusion was meant for touch. But if they continue to develop LumaFusion for the Mac, if they dedicated one person to that or 2 people, I think there is somebody dedicated to make sure the Mac version is as good as it can be, but they're not spending like resources to get a Mac version. Everything's on touch. But if they did, I would really, really like that. I mean, I dabble with it now on the iPad, even on the, you know what? For the longest time, I'm saying, how do people edit on the phone? LumaFusion makes it very, very efficient, professional, and easy. It's amazing what you can do. So I might do when I do some live stuff, I might do the videos here on the phone, some of them quick ones, 1 minute, 2 minute ones, and shoot them up on my live stream. So I already have a YouTube channel. Matter of fact, I have a YouTube channel set up for NAB 2023. I have a playlist. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. I have a playlist. From here on out through NAB and after NAB, because I'll have videos that won't make it to the live stream, it'll be after NAB. From here on out, I'm going to just watch that playlist. Go to my YouTube channel and just subscribe to the NAB 2023 playlist. I'm going to, right now I'm putting up clips from 2022 and 2019 and 2017 and 2018. They're called pre or legacy NAB, or I forget what I called it. What did I call it? Something. And I'll post those till I get to the week before NAB. Once the week before NAB starts, I'm going to start doing live stream testing on that playlist channel. Testing microphones, testing different, I'm only going to use iPhones. I'm not bringing any cameras with me. But I'm going to have multiple iPhones. I have tripods or monopods. I have clips. I have this, cables, batteries, all kinds of things. But mostly I'll be testing the audio and a couple of live streaming apps. When I'm in a hotel room, which I'm going to be doing most of my broadcasting, I'll be using Ecamm Live, which is what I'm using now to broadcast this. But when I'm mobile, it doesn't work on iPads and stuff, so I'm going to be using different applications to broadcast mainly to the YouTube channel, but sometimes to Facebook and Twitter as well. I think I can broadcast to all 3 when I'm live, I think. But the problem with doing that at NAB, spotty internet. Spotty internet in that convention center. I have cell phone sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So what I do a lot of is I film, go back to the hotel room, put together clips, and then stream live from the hotel room. So every evening, unless I'm in late, if I'm in late, I'm not going to be doing anything in the evenings. But if I'm not in late, I'll do a stream in the evening from my hotel room, and I'll definitely do a stream every morning. Not Sunday morning, but Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and Wednesday morning, I'll be doing live streams with Ecamm with my MacBook Pro from the hotel. During the day, I'm going to turn the live camera on and do live streams, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, different places around the NAB Convention Center. So I'll be doing that. And wonder how that multicam will transfer from Final Cut Pro XML from LumaFusion. I'm sure it will. I'm sure that's exactly what they're one of the things they're working on. It'll be good. Listen, the LumaForge team, fantastic. Fantastic. Chris and Terry, or who I interview all the time, they're just the best people. They're very pleasant to be around. They'll tell me if something's coming out. They may not announce specifically, but they'll tell, yeah, it's coming out. They told me the FCPX ML exchange was coming out before it came out, and we have a great time when they're on. So I'll be talking to them, I'm sure. If Apple continues like they are going to lose content creator over Filmora in the future, I'm not sure what that means exactly. I don't, Apple announced 2.5 million seats of Final Cut Pro in 2018. Okay, 2017, 2 million. 2018 was 2.5 million. They gained 500,000 seats in 1 year. They gained 500,000 seats between 2017 and 2018. I don't think that stopped. I don't think that 500,000 stopped. So I think between 2018 and 2019, they probably gained 500,000. 2019 to 2020, they probably gained 500,000. When they put it up for 90 days, they gave it, during COVID stuff, they gave people lots of time to try it out. And they even renewed the 90-day trial when they had a new version of Final Cut. You could get a new 90-day trial if you went back and did whatever, if it's a new version. So I'd be surprised if they don't have over 5 million users of Final Cut at this point. Paid users, not the trial users. 5 million, maybe they're approaching 6 million. Because it's been 5 years since 2018, okay? 5 years. If you say, okay, each year is 500,000, that's another 2.5 million. Based on that original 2.5 million, that's 5 million users. Is that right? 2.5 and 2.5 is 5 million. That's a lot of Final Cut Pro editors. And it could be 6 million. Who the heck knows? But it's certainly 4 million. Between 4 and 5 is a pretty certain, pretty safe bet. So they have a lot of users, regardless of people saying, oh, I'm going to quit Final Cut and go to DaVinci. I'm going to quit Final Cut and go to Premiere. First off, this isn't an airport, okay? We don't need to know your departure. I understand the frustration. Don't get me wrong there. I understand the frustration. But first off, if you've already paid for Final Cut, there's no cost to it. There's no additional cost at this point. There could be at some point, but not right now. So I use 2 NLEs. I use DaVinci Resolve sometimes, Final Cut mostly. I use LumaFusion sometimes, Final Cut mostly. So I use 3 different NLEs. I'm not going to go any more than that. For me, that's plenty. Although I've seen there's some other NLEs that are doing artificial intelligence online and stuff. Who knows what the future? This is good. All this competition for Final Cut is good. All of it. Avid, Premiere, Blackmagic, LumaFusion, whatever the other AI ones that are coming out. CapCut's another one I keep seeing. Now, that's not a high-end sophisticated, but it's very popular. I haven't tried it. I have downloaded, but I haven't tried it. Certainly, Apple has a lot to learn and inspire from LumaFusion and Insta360. From LumaFusion, absolutely. There's some of my favorite. There's 3 favorite things I like at LumaFusion. I wish Final Cut had. Number 1, you can color code clips. So you can color code a group of clips red. You can color code a group of clips blue. You can color code them green. You can go to the browser, search for blue, all the blue clips come up. You can search for green, all the green clips come up. Plus, they're color coded in the timeline. You can see the blue clips and the green clips and whatever. Another thing with LumaFusion has, you can lock the storyline. They have a advanced magnetic storyline. I think that's what they call it. Advanced magnetic storyline. You can lock it. You can lock a track so it doesn't move. It's not affected by the rest of the storyline. The rest of the storyline does its thing. This one track doesn't because it's locked. I'd like to see that in Final Cut. The other thing is it has an overview track in the viewer that has the entire timeline in it. And you can click there. You can click, and it'll jump to that point in the timeline. And you can, it's really sophisticated. Soundtrack Pro used to have that. And I really, really liked it with Soundtrack Pro, and I won Final Cut Pro to get an overview timeline. Remember the 2016 MacBook Pros? Was it the 2016s or the 2019s? 2016, they had that scroll bar instead of the function keys, and it's that kind of a thing. I like to see that in Final Cut Pro. An overview timeline. Those are 3 things from LumaFusion. There's more. It has an audio mixer. LumaFusion has an audio mixer. This is on an iPad. This is on an iPad and an iPhone. Come on. It can be done in Final Cut Pro. All these years we've been fussing with, oh, you got to do a compound clip for rolls and stuff, and then you got to go into the compound clip, break it apart, do your thing, close it up, and every time you go into a compound clip, it jumps to another timeline. You can't open a compound clip up right in the timeline where it is, so you know where the heck you are and close it up like this. Boop, boop. No, it jumps to another timeline somewhere. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Let's get a roles-based mixer, whatever the heck they're doing, where you can have roles and channel strips. You can apply plugins to one channel strip or the master plugin, a limiter plugin. These are all good things that Final Cut needs. Audio needs some love in Final Cut for sure, because audio, what's the thing? Audio is 50% of good video. Well, 50% at least, maybe it's a little more. Audio doesn't have the attention in Final Cut Pro that video has, by far. Let's check on the cat cam. All right, we have Luther in the top and Tuffy still at the bottom. And I think Lucy's in the brown basket. That's my big front glass plate window that I have in my house. So in the morning, that they get all that sunshine coming in, shining on them. That's why they like it there. Couple of cat trees. Let's see another video. Here's another one from FMC. This is the Content Creators Party from 2022. I'll be going to the one in 2023 on Sunday night, but this is the one from 2022.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So that's FMC's Content Creators Party. If you do one of their packages, it's included. If you get training, they have Premiere, they have DaVinci Resolve, they have a little bit of Final Cut, but not that much. Mostly Adobe and DaVinci. And it's part of that package. It's a Content Creators Party Sunday night. Excuse me. And then I'm going to that. I'm not doing the training sessions, but I'm doing the party. It's really great. It's a lot of people there. I mean, I met Steve Martin there last year, and I met Photo Joseph. He was there. I guess he taught some classes. And then, of course, there's people from Future Media Concepts that I know that are there. It's a really fun event. Now, if you're not taking any of their classes, I think it's $70, $75 to get in. Now, it has food and drinks and social gatherings, so I'll be there on Sunday night for sure. I'll be filming. I might be streaming live. It always depends on what kind of a cell connection I have. That's the biggest thing about NAB, but I always can film. I'm going to have multiple iPhone cameras. I'm only taking my iPhone cameras because that's all I need. Except the hotel room, when I stream live, I'll use my MacBook Pro camera, or I'll use my iPhone. I don't know yet. But I'll be stopping people interview. So when I'm doing those walk-arounds, when I'm walking in crowds, I can't hear anything. It's so loud. The volume is so loud. It's just overwhelmingly loud when people talk to you. I really even can't hear them. So I have to, what'd you say? Get in there. In post, I can clean it up a little bit, but when I'm actually there, I really can't hear. It's too loud. I had the same thing with Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. I love Final Cut Pro and don't plan on leaving. I only paid $2.99 years ago and have made money back many times. Timeline is the best. Magnetic timeline, I agree with you, Matthew. It absolutely is the best. But I'd like to be able to lock that. I'd like to be able to lock a secondary storyline that's not affected by what's going on in the first storyline. And I did a tutorial on a workaround how to lock a secondary storyline. It's on my YouTube channel. You can effectively lock a secondary storyline so when you move things around in the primary, everything doesn't jump around with it. The secondary stays put. You do your stuff in your primary. There's a way to do it. I have it on my YouTube channel. Just put it up recently. Will says, when is Final Cut going to give us a magic mask like Resolve? I hear that all the time. That's a good, solid request. I know I'm not the only one who's tired of seeing, let's see what it says. Tired of spending hours masking and keyframing. Listen, that's a great, once again, okay? Absolutely. That's a great feature request. Is there a plugin I'm not aware of? Audience, is there a plugin for Will, like the magic mask that Resolve has? Is there a plugin that works in Final Cut like that to make the mask? You don't have to keyframe as things move? I don't know. But I agree with you. Great request. Send it into the Final Cut Pro team. Maybe they're working on it. Maybe they are working on it. Let's see. Let's do maybe one. This is what the LumaForge used to do, a faster together thing, and NAB. This is from 2019. This is 2019.
I'm glad to see everyone. I just feel like a lot of you are my friends. Richard and the lumberjacks right there. And Alex 4D, guys, Rodney, guys, it's so great to see all you guys. I look forward to the show, not because I get to see another a version of, Resolve. But I look forward to the show to see you all. So thank you so much, and I look forward to interfacing with you the rest of the time. So thank you.
Next up is Roger Bolton from Cornell.
Hello there. So Cornell does a bunch of plugins, color grading, tracking, stabilizing. What we're doing new is cloud transcription software, and I'm also there tomorrow night with a table. If anyone wants to see what we're doing, please come and say hello, and nice to see you all. Thank you.
Please return to your drinking conversations. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Anyway, that's what we used to have at NAB. We used to have a lot of LumaForge's Faster Together had a high amount of content with Final Cut Pro stuff, tutorials. Final Cut Pro people were there. Luke Tristram has been in there past, other Final Cut Pro personalities. There was a lot of stuff that happened at the Faster Together stages, Final Cut Pro related. You had the FCPX Guru Gathering. You had FCP Works had Final Cut Pro team presenting in the convention center at NAB in 2017 and 2018. This year, I don't know. I don't know of anything that has any expectations of a high concentration of Final Cut Pro people. I don't know. Like I said, I am going to try to organize loosely. It's not going to be tickets or anything. It's just going to be, okay, we're going to meet here for lunch. If you're into Final Cut Pro, send me your information. We'll make a reservation for that amount of people. I'm going to meet here for breakfast. Maybe meet here. It won't be dinners on. We could do a dinner on Tuesday night because there's nothing going on that I'm going to on Tuesday night right now. But I'm thinking in the morning, maybe Monday morning for breakfast before NAB. But it has to be early because NAB opens up at 9. I want to get there at 9. It would have to be like at 7 or 7:30. I have a place that I eat breakfast. Really, really good American breakfast place. Or we can have a place that's kind of central to everybody. I'm not going to open up to the general public. It's open to the general public, but you have to send me information so I could see how many people are going to show up. I don't want to sit there at a table and then have 10 people show up and know where to put them. So I will make reservations for Final Cut Pro centric, not lunch, because I don't really do lunch. So breakfast, maybe dinner. Maybe dinner. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe Tuesday night we'll have a dinner somewhere. But if there's interest, if there's not interest, of course I won't do it. But there's nothing specific in Final Cut Pro that I've seen so far, and I've asked around. There's no Guru Gathering. I don't even think there's any Super Meet this year. Can you believe that? Let me see what this is. This is that. Oh, well, that was that one. Let me go back to here. Okay, look, this is what is happening right now. This is a Super Meet, okay? 2022 Super Meet. This is from last year. Look what it says. It says, work towards Super Meet 2023 on Monday, April 17th. Okay? That's what it says. I don't see it. I don't think it's happening. I think there's no Super Meet at NAB this year. Even though it says it on their webpage, there's no link. People should be buying tickets by now. It's only 5 weeks out. I would be pleasantly surprised if there was going to be one. But the other thing is, Monday, April 17th is the Media Motion Ball. And I think that would really hurt Super Meet sales. I think maybe that's the reason you didn't do it. I don't know. So we had a question from Will. It said, is there a plugin that I'm not aware of about tracking? And Matthew says, Final Cut Pro did a video on it. Low ceiling, everyone talking to you, sound is a nightmare. It is, but there's not low ceilings too much. The ceilings are pretty high. Can you share what you want to see there? Who are these Final Cut people? Can you share who you want to see there? Let me see. I'm not sure what these are, Uniconverter. I'm not sure what that's referring to. But anyway, Matthew says keeper, not keeper. Sorry. So that's with some kind of makes masking easier. It identifies things and takes the backgrounds out and all that. I've seen that. And I tried the demo. I wasn't that impressed. It seemed like it needs more development. So at some point, maybe it'll be better than it was when I tried the demo out. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I've seen. Matthew Pate has his own YouTube channel. You can search him over there on YouTube. He's got some YouTube stuff happening there. So, Torgrim, you said, can you please share who you want to see there? Who are these Final Cut Pro people? So, I'm going to see, if LumaFusion's there, I'm going to go stop over to see them. I'm going to see Audio Design Desk. For sure, that Audio Design Desk app is phenomenal. I just can't get over how great that application is for a lot of different reasons. We'll go over that. So Audio Design Desk, that works in Final Cut and it works in Logic. I'm going to see Digital Anarchy. For sure, they have Beauty Box and Transcriptive and a bunch of other plugins that can be used in Final Cut. I think Premiere, maybe in Blackmagic, I don't know. But we'll be stop by and seeing them. I'll probably stop by and see Patrick Southern over there at the Adobe booth. He's our only hope that there's going to be any Final Cut Pro advancement over there at Frame.io since they sold out to Adobe. LumaForge, Frame.io sold out to Adobe. They sold the company to Adobe. If I owned, would I do it? Probably. I'm not criticizing them for doing it. I'm just saying, don't tell me that they used to be kind of a Final Cut Pro centric. It's not anymore. They're Adobe. Adobe calls the shots. Adobe owns them and Adobe calls the shots. But regardless, I'm still friends with Patrick. I haven't talked to Michael Cioni for a long time, so I don't know. I haven't talked to him since Frame.io was sold to Adobe. I don't know, but Adobe's in charge over there. Adobe's in charge. Okay, Eric says, nah, Keeper won't do it. Very niche situation for removing background. Okay. Anybody from the Final Cut Pro team? Yes. I guarantee you the Final Cut Pro team will be there. Not at an event, but they'll be there. I always see Final Cut Pro people, the team there. Always. That guaranteed they were there last year. I talked to them last year, 2022. So I know they will be there, absolutely will be there. So I think we got a new time for these shows. I think we're going to stick to 11 o'clock. This one seems to be one of the most popular ones that we've had. So Final Cut Pro team. What am I doing? Final Cut Pro team is always there. Carbonation. Final Cut Pro team is always there. They take meetings with developers. I see them walking around. I'll stop and say hi to them. They don't want to be on camera and stuff because of Apple. They're not allowed to do that. But anyway, Michael says, what's your tough thought on Premiere Pro losing key content creator? I don't know I'm not familiar with that situation. Why don't you tell me what that is? I'm not sure what that is. But here's how you can support me. Sorry. Here. Buy me a coffee. Go over there and buy me a coffee. If I put a lot of time in these things, I put a lot of time in editing Final Cut Pro radio podcast. Yeah, buy me a coffee for NAB. I'll be putting in hours and hours and hours and hours over there. They're $5 a piece. Pitch $5, $10, $20, whatever you want to do. I'm going to show everybody who I've had. So in 2022, I had over $200 worth of coffees. Buy me a coffees. I really appreciate it. So far, I think we got $40 or $50 so far leading up to NAB. So I'm going to beat the $200 from last year. I'm going to beat that from last year. I mean, it's not just coffee. I buy my breakfast with it. With that money, bagels and I'll be bagels. I'll buy breakfast. Like I said, I don't eat lunch. I mean, I'm not going to eat lunch at NAB. It's just I'm too walking, interviewing. But I will sometimes go back to my hotel room in mid-afternoon, get ready for the evening, whatever I'm doing in the evening. So at that point, I go to In-N-Out Burger, where my hotel is. There's an In-N-Out Burger there. I'll go there and get a couple, sandwiches, whatever. I do have to go to, one thing I have to go to is I have to get bottled water from my hotel room, half and half, because I take my coffee setup with me. I take a stainless steel pour-over kettle in my hotel room, so when I get up in the morning, I have coffee instantly. Good coffee. I bring my own coffee. I grind my own beans and bring them with me. I want it when I get up in the morning. I don't want to have to get dressed and showered and then go get coffee. No, I want it in my hotel room, good coffee first thing in the morning. Because that's the time I'll be doing a lot of live streaming. I'll be assembling clips from the day before, talking to everybody, do live streaming. But don't forget, come over here at the YouTube channel, Richard Taylor TV. Subscribe over there. That's where you're going to find out whenever I go live. That's the main place. It'll also be on Facebook and Twitter, most likely. But if I have connection issues, I'm just going to do YouTube. But that's when it'll start. That's when I will start doing NAB broadcast. Leading up to NAB, I'm just going to be doing shows from the past, clips from the past, until I get the week before. Then I'm going to start doing audio testing to see my audio setup, because the audio is most important. I have a kind of a sophisticated setup for using an iPhone. It's kind of sophisticated. And I want to test it out, and I'll test it out live and broadcast them on my YouTube channel. You're the best. Thanks for always pushing Apple. You're welcome. Well, it's Apple and Final Cut Pro. I mean, obviously I'm an Apple user. I have their phones, I have their computers, I have their laptops, but I don't buy the monitor I have is an LG. It's not an Apple monitor. I don't buy everything Apple. I don't have the latest and biggest iPad. I don't use iPad that much. A little bit. But I have a lot of iPhones, and I have a lot of Apple software, of course. Final Cut Pro, I edit on my podcast in Logic. Logic is far superior to Final Cut for doing audio, as it should be. It's a digital audio workstation. There's no comparison to Final Cut in Logic. Logic is leaps and bounds superior for dealing with audio. Final Cut is okay. It's a good basic audio editor, and you can do things with it, but you can't do anything near what you can in Logic, which is expected. Logic is a digital audio workstation. It's meant for audio. Well, the first 4 IKEA flat packs are done. Boom. Thanks for the company and everybody. Thanks, Torgen. Hopefully we'll see you again at another Creative Summit. I think there's going to be one in 2023 in person. Have a good one. About to watch the Barma take Missouri in the SEC tournament. I'm not sure what that is. Soccer, I have no idea. All right, we're going to get out of here, I think, everybody. So I think the new time is going to be 11 o'clock on Saturday mornings. This seems to be a more popular time frame. So next Saturday, Final Cut Pro and Coffee. If anybody has any questions or anything, comments before we leave, post them here, and I'll wait another minute or two before. Let's go and see, let's check the cat room out before I leave. Lazy cats. Everybody's in the same place. Nobody's left anywhere. There's my website, Buy Me a Coffee. So we have, let me hook this up. So we have this, the last 2 people, someone bought 3 coffees. Look at that. Someone bought 3 coffees. And I said, thank you for your support. And then Joe Wilson bought 5 coffees. Joe said, I'd love to meet you at Vegas during NAB. I'm the owner of Bergman Productions in Oregon and Idaho. We're a small commercial photo and video production company that specializes in helping small to medium businesses, and we use Final Cut Pro a lot. I spend more time with Final Cut Pro than my wife. And I said, sounds like a plan. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support. And John Hine, my friend from the National Archives. He was an editor down there. I used to help him with his videos when I worked there. But this is where you go to buy me a coffee. You already have, well, Joe bought 5 and someone bought 3. So we're already up to 8 coffees. That's already $40 for this year's NAB. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And let me see what Torgrim has to say. If I'm going to a new summit, Richard, people better start buying me coffees pronto. Absolutely. I know you used your savings up last time. You told me you used all your savings. But I think, I don't know, nobody's told me, but I think the potential for a new Final Cut Pro Creative Summit in Cupertino in November is a real possibility this year, 2023. That'll be fantastic. Now, of course, it depends on world events and all that stuff. But in the economy, they have to work with Apple, but I think that's a real possibility. That is my favorite event of the year, NAB being the second. Since they didn't have it last year, NAB has come to the top of the list. I'm looking so forward to getting to NAB and hit the ground running on Sunday morning. And I'll do like a walk around at first, kind of a get together, and I'll do some, like I said, I'm going to do short live streams, 5-minute, 10-minute live streams on the show floor as much as I can, as long as I have a connection. But I'll film all the time, and I'll take those films back to the hotel room. I might edit some of them on my laptop that I'll have with me and see how that goes. But that's going to be the scenario. And you want to go to Richard Taylor TV. That's where you want to go. Like and subscribe. Over there on YouTube, that's where you want to go to follow along, watch the live streams. All right, everyone. If I don't see you before now, if there's an update to Final Cut Pro, I'll come back on here live. As a matter of fact, I might be doing an interview this week. I might be coming on in the afternoon doing an interview with an app developer who has a new app out. I haven't scheduled it yet, so I don't know. But I might be doing it. And if there's any update to Final Cut Pro, I'll be on within a couple hours, giving you, the Final Cut Pro community, a chance to talk live on these live streams. That's why I do these. I do these so you can come in here, you can comment, you can ask questions, you can ask, if I can answer them, that's great. If I can't, we'll get the audience to answer them. But, that's what these are for. They're here for you to come here and talk. All right, everyone, I think I'm going to finish up. If I don't see you before then, I'll see you next Saturday. Thanks for tuning in.